Connie, I'm going to turn it over to you to let you kind of introduce yourself and kind of give everybody an introduction to the session that you're going to be doing for us today. Thanks for doing it too.
Sure, no problem. I'm glad to be here. I know that we do a brief little introduction on the video, but it's nice to see everybody, and I see some familiar names, which is wonderful. So the topic today is creating your own smart home using off-the-shelf technologies. And Richard and I are really passionate about this particular topic. I know as we were just chatting amongst Donald, Dustin, and myself before we got started, we were talking a little bit about the perception that people have had up until recently that technology is a luxury for people with disabilities, whereas technology for you and I seems to be an essential type of thing. And so I'm really fascinated by that whole perception, and why in the world would a smartphone or a tablet or other technologies that we use on a daily basis and see as being critical to our functioning, why would that type of technology not also be essential to people with disabilities? And so we do see that that's changing a little bit. Those perceptions are starting to morph, but I'm looking really, I'm very excited about seeing that genuinely change as we move forward, into the next few years. So with that, I think I have done a little introduction of myself on the video. So I think we'll be good to go ahead and play the video, Dustin and Donald, and then I'm here for questions. So make sure you keep track, and I will do my best to keep track as well. And I have plenty of time allocated at the end so that you guys have a chance to ask any questions you may have.
Yep. Yeah, please throw questions in the chat, and here comes the presentation.
Hello, my name is Connie Harrington. My name is Richard Harrington. And we are the founders of and consultants with Trinity's Technology Enhancing Capabilities Lab, or TECLab for short, as we like to call it. We're located just south of Chicago. The TECLab opened its doors in 2017 in order to provide services to the people that Trinity supports. And since that time, we've also expanded to be able to provide support to
we can't hear the audio anymore.
our communities, such as the aging population, folks with mental illness.
Can you hear it now?
Veterans, et cetera. You get the idea. So the services that we're able to provide to the folks supported by Trinity Services, we've also been able to provide to the community at large.
It's very soft. Can you turn it up?
I will give that a shot. Unfortunately, I think that the video is just maybe a little quiet. Let me try this again.
Or TECLab for short, as we like to call it.
That's as
We're
loud as it
located
will
just
go.
south of Chicago. The TECLab opened its doors in 2017 in order to provide services to the people that Trinity supports. And since that time, we've also expanded to be able to provide support.
Can everyone hear this okay? Please let me know in the chat if you can't. We'll try to figure this out.
To our community members.
Yeah, we could hear it, and then the volume went back out completely.
Oh, you cannot hear it now. Is that correct?
Correct.
That is extremely strange why it would just stop, because I can continue to hear it on my end. Let me stop the share and see if I can get this fixed.
With mental illness, combat veterans, et cetera. You get the idea. So the services that we're able to provide
to
the folks supported by Trinity Services, we've also been able to provide to the community at large.
And as I mentioned earlier, my name is Richard Harrington. I have been working with people that
It went out again.
the age of 13 as a volunteer for a summer.
Looks like I'm gonna have to leave my microphone unmuted. So.
And
Okay.
fell in love with it, developed a passion, and actually made a career out of it. Started in a group home setting as a DSP. Worked my way up in that same home for about 10 years into a case manager type role. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I was able to develop or combine my passion for working with people with disabilities and my love of tinkering with things and gadgets in general to work in the assistive technology arena of working with people with disabilities.
So my background is similar. I've also been in the field around 20 years. I think it started quite as young as Richard did though. I actually came into the field as a new graduate, never having worked with people with disabilities before. It didn't take me very long to figure out that I really enjoyed the work. And I worked primarily in residential services for a number of years. And then I had an opportunity to transition into the arena of assistive technology. And that was about, 9 years ago or so. And I haven't looked back since. It's been a wonderful experience. I've enjoyed my time doing this. My favorite part is being able to help people do things that they weren't able to do before, to enjoy their lives more than ever, and to participate in our communities more than ever. So we're very excited to be with you here today. Today's presentation, Create Your Own Smart Home Using Off-the-Shelf Products, is one that Richard and I hold pretty dear to our hearts. And there's a number of reasons for that. Now, most of you probably are familiar with technologies that have always been dedicated to people who have disabilities. And so, for those of you who've been in the field for a while, you remember the larger Dynavoxes and some of the other technologies that really were designed and developed specifically for people with intellectual or developmental disabilities. And while those products certainly served a purpose for a number of years and did help people with communication and some of those other things, we found that the development of mainstream technologies has really been incredibly beneficial for people with disabilities. And so there's a number of reasons we kind of have that perspective. The first is that they're so readily available. You can just stroll down to your local Best Buy and pick up so many of these mainstream products.
Or you can order stuff off of Amazon.
Right, get it delivered right to your door. And then we also know that these products are getting, they're actually relatively inexpensive to start with, but they're getting less and less expensive all of the time. And so, whereas some of the devices that were designed specifically for people with disabilities, even now still tend to be quite expensive, some of these mainstream technologies that can accomplish some of the same things are getting very, very cheap. And the other reason that we really like the mainstream technologies, the reasons we're excited about this presentation today, is that we understand that people don't like to stick out. We understand that people don't like to stand out as being different in a group. And so some of the technologies that were designed specifically for people with disabilities have a tendency to kind of make people stand out as different, or, oh, that person must have a disability. And these mainstream technologies now, they really allow people to be able to fit in with the fabric of their communities. I mean, they are using cell phones and tablets and the same types of technologies that you and I use. So it allows them to fit in and not look different and kind of play that role a little bit easier. So at any rate, that's why we're really excited to be here with you today. I'm guessing that some of you that are participating are familiar with smart home technologies. Some of you maybe even have some of these technologies in your own home. That's great. Hopefully you can pick up a few things from our presentation today and learn about some things you didn't know before. But really what we want to emphasize today is how you can use some of these smart home technologies to benefit the people that you serve. And so as we go through, you're going to see a number of things that we're talking about that will allow a person to access their environment more independently, be able to do things that they maybe weren't able to do before. So hopefully we'll be able to share a few stories along the way with you too today.
So we wanted to start off today with what to kind of expect from this presentation. We want to actually define what a smart home is and define what some of the smart home components are, as well as giving some examples of the most common smart home components that you will find on the market. And then, as Connie just mentioned along the way, we'll share some real life examples of how these components can work together and develop that smart home concept.
So we do have a few disclaimers to get started today. First of all, you need to know that neither Richard or I received any kind of a kickback or any kind of a benefit from companies for recommending the products that we're telling you about today. They're just simply products that we've used over the course of the past few years that we've really liked and found to be very successful with some of the people that we support. Now, also keep in mind that we will be trying to provide some pricing information as we go along today. That pricing information is variable, of course, so it depends where you pick it up, time of year you buy some of those types of things, but it should give you an idea as to cost on some of these items. Now, we are not going to have enough time to talk about all the different types of smart home components. So we're going to be covering those that are kind of most common and most used in homes. The other thing that I wanted to mention is for those of you who have a smart speaker in your environment, those speakers really and truly are always listening, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get further along in today's presentation. But to minimize disruption, if you do happen to have one of those devices in your environment, you may want to mute them, as Richard just did for ours, because we will be saying, hey Amazon, or hey Alexa, and hey Google several times as we go through the presentation for demonstration purposes. So just to minimize disruptions in your environment, you may want to place those devices on mute.
Okay, so let's dive into defining what a smart home is. I don't know if you've ever actually searched smart home definition, but I have, and there are a lot of different definitions and ways that people consider smart home technology. So I wanted to share my favorite definition that I've come across, and it's actually from a website that I only learned about doing this search. It's called Investopedia.com, and it reads, a smart home refers to a convenient home setup where appliances and devices can be automatically controlled remotely from anywhere with an internet connection using a mobile or other network device. Devices in a smart home are interconnected through the internet, allowing the user to control functions such as security access to the home, temperature, lighting, and a home theater remotely. What I really like about that definition in particular is it does cover the gambit of what can be included in a smart home, from the temperature to access, all that good stuff. And then I just wanted to throw in another small disclaimer. Today we will be talking about devices that are connected to the internet. If you're looking for something that isn't connected to the internet, I do know that there's a system called the X10 system that's available, and they have a lot of different devices that use more of a radio frequency method of communicating with each other. So I would recommend looking into X10, the letter X, the number 10.com. They have a lot of different devices that can speak to each other and don't necessarily need to be connected to the internet.
Yeah, which is particularly useful, especially as you consider some of the folks that we support do struggle with internet access, for a number of reasons, whether that's being able to financially afford that, or there's maybe some potential dangers with accessing the internet. So that may be a good option for some of the folks that you support as well. Mm-hmm. So just to kind of kick off today, I did want to start off by talking about the smart plug. And I'll let Richard hold this up.
Yeah, I think I have longer arms, so I can get it closer.
So for the smart plugs, what you're looking at is a little device that allows you to plug an appliance into, say, a lamp or a fan. And then if Richard, you can flip that over, you'll see that the back side of it would just plug into a standard wall outlet. So it basically serves as an interrupter between the device that you're plugging in and your wall outlet.
And there's also a power button on the device itself, so that allows you to operate that appliance from the plug.
Yeah, if you so desire.
Yeah.
So the plug that we're showing you here today is made by a company called CASA, and it's KASA. And what this plug allows you to do is it allows you to control small appliances remotely from that are plugged into a wall outlet. And I think you have a chance to be able to demonstrate how we can turn this on, how we can turn items on and off with a plug through the app, right?
The plug, no. The bulb, yes.
Okay. So the concept will be very similar in that the app will just allow you to open up your smartphone or your tablet, and then I can simply press an on or off button that will allow me to turn that lamp or fan on or off. Now, as we get along a little bit further today, you'll also learn that we'll be able to pair that with a smart speaker. And so instead of or in addition to, I can use my voice to control the appliance as well as being able to use my smartphone or my tablet. So an example of what that would be like, thank you for turning it on, is Alexa, turn on Connie's lamp. Okay. And you'll see here that the principle works the same, is I'll be able to control that outlet, my smart plug, and that appliance just by using my voice control of Alexa. And we'll talk a little bit more here about that here in just a bit. So Alexa, turn off Connie's lamp. Alexa, turn off Connie's lamp. Okay. Great.
We should have added a disclaimer that Alexa can kind of be obstinate sometimes.
Yeah. Now, these smart plugs, I forgot to mention, you can pick those up just about anywhere, but we found them at Best Buy and Amazon, and they run about $18 a piece. Now, in just a little bit here, we'll be diving more into something that we call schedules and routines. I don't want to dive into that yet because we're actually going to demonstrate how you set those up. But it is important to know that you can set up schedules and routines also using these smart plugs. Now, the other thing that you have to keep in mind is there's a number of other products on the market that can do the same type of thing. So by all means, don't feel like you have to be tied into the CASAs. We just like these because they don't require a hub to operate. So if you do, explore other types of brands of these smart plugs, just be aware that some of those do require you to have a hub in your home that allows those devices to operate. And just to kind of keep into perspective here, also, these smart plugs, these types of devices started coming on the market in 2015. And so they've been around for a while. We're just really starting to see these take off in the concept of using smart homes.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to dive into smart thermostats. And basically a smart thermostat is a way to connect your HVAC system through the internet using either a remote, I was going to say remote control, but I meant to say remotely through the app, or using your smart speaker. And there are three really big brands available. There's the Ecobee, there's the Honeywell, and then there's the Nest. And honestly, there's not a whole lot of difference between the three brands other than price and different models. The biggest difference I've found is really usability of the app. And so I just kind of wanted to show you how small they are. This is the ecobee Light, ecobee 3 Lite. It's super easy to connect. The app is really easy to use. Pricing can range from about $130 to I've actually seen up to $300. And really this depends on the brand of thermostat, that particular model, and then how many sensors. And what the sensors do with the thermostats is it allows you to control the temperature in different rooms. And in order to know if that's going to work, you would have to have a specific type of furnace or HVAC system. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what types those are. I just know that these thermos or these HVAC systems actually have to be set up for zones, and that's where you want to contact your local professional. So, and then we also like to mention that if you're looking for deals on these things, it's a really good idea to contact your electric company. So, for instance, if you want to see if they have deals, you can always check your comments or whoever your electric company is. A lot of times they run really good deals. So yeah.
Absolutely. So we can also talk about smart bulbs, and you saw us demonstrate a smart bulb here just a second ago, but they're actually look like this. Again, we're talking about the CASA products, KASA, and this is one of the light bulbs that has the ability to be white, of course, but then it also has the full spectrum of colors available. So to demonstrate how this actually looks, I'm going to actually use our smart speaker again. So Alexa, turn on Connie's lamp. Okay. So I know it's going to be a little bit challenging for you to be able to see on the computer, but we're going to try changing some colors.
It is currently blue.
Right. So I'm going to say, Alexa, turn Connie's lamp red. Okay. Alexa, turn Connie's lamp purple. Okay. So you'll see how it has the ability to change with your voice. And then, of course, you have the same capacity through the app.
Yes, you do. I'd also like to mention that you also have the ability to dim.
Right. So, Alexa, turn Connie's lamp to 50%. Alexa, turn Connie's lamp to 50%. Okay. So that gives you an opportunity to, again, voice control or be able to utilize a smart bulb through the app. And did you want to show them how to do that, what that actually looks like on the app?
Sure.
Okay. So while Richard's pulling that up, I also want to mention that, again, this is one of those products where you see a lot of other companies who are coming into the market, and they do have products available that do similar types of things. Now, what I've really liked about this smart bulb is you can pick these up for about $20 off of Amazon and Best Buy. And so for those of you who have explored these smart bulbs a little bit, you know that they can get quite expensive. So I like the price tag that's associated with these two. So with the app that Richard has pulled up right now, you'll see that Connie's lamp is listed there.
I'm just going to tap on that. You can kind of see how it turned gray.
Now you'll see here that there's a big power button in the center of the screen, and that allows me to turn the lamp on and off. And then you'll also see that I have the ability to change the colors of the light, and that's at the top of the box there, and I can just select any color that I like.
Yeah, there's some presets here, or you can just kind of move your finger around because it opens up the color wheel.
Now you're going to see that there's a few other options at the bottom. I'm going to hold off on covering those until just a little bit later today, where we start talking about schedules and routines and some of those other things.
But you can also change the brightness through the app by tapping the brightness section, and then you can change the dimness, I guess, of just going white.
Yeah. Let's mute Alexa again here.
Let me stop sharing for now. So we kind of want to talk about smart sensors right now. So a smart sensor is a device that takes information from a physical environment and then sends a signal to a smartphone, computer, or even a smart speaker. And there's really not enough time to talk about all of those available components, unfortunately, because that could be a whole other presentation. So we did want to touch base on it because they are available, and some of the examples that you can find online or even at Home Depot or Lowe's or your local hardware store. So they can be used to monitor for water leaks. So you can put a sensor underneath your water heater, next to a sump pump, underneath your toilet, and then if it senses any water or moisture, it will send a notice to your smart speaker or smartphone. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, with the thermostats, you can find you can have sensors that are put in specific rooms and only monitor the temperature, not necessarily change it, but you can monitor the temperature in a specific room. So let's say you have a baby and you want to make sure that his or her room is set at 72 degrees, but your thermostat isn't quite set up for something like that, you can still monitor just that room and then get fans or whatever set up in there. There are motion sensors, there's light sensors, there's smoke and carbon monoxide sensors that will pair with your smartphone and smart speakers, and the list goes on. Honestly, we would just recommend looking for what you want and then finding those possibilities. And wanted to share some of the brands that are available. There's Wyze, WYZE. Samsung Smart Things is a big one. Simply Safe, Honeywell, and then Google Nest, and then Moen actually makes some sensors for temperature control that I've seen.
Yeah, so I think it's a good point to know. As we said earlier, we can't dive into all of these components individually, but it's a good thing to know that these are available out there, and you can just do a little searching and research on your own to find these. Just keep in mind that most things, if you're wanting to monitor your environment, there's some sort of a technology solution for that. So the next thing that we wanted to cover with you today is the iGuard stove, and this product we found particularly beneficial for so many of the people that we support. We know that folks oftentimes struggle with being able to use a stove safely for one reason or another. Maybe that's due to dementia or advancing Alzheimer's. Maybe it's because the person has another memory deficit of some type. Their intellectual or developmental disability makes it very difficult for them to use a stove safely. So in order to put protections in place at home, sometimes we turn to technology. And one of those that we've used in the past has been the iGuard, iGuard. And this product is actually made in Canada. You can purchase it for either electric or gas stoves. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into this because my guess is that you have some people that you work with that could benefit from it as well. So the way that the iGuard works is it's basically a device, kind of like the smart plug that we were showing you earlier, that you actually plug into the wall behind your stove, and then you plug your stove into that device. Then there is another little monitor that mounts above your stove or somewhere near it, and that's actually a motion sensor. So when you're using the iGuard, there's a number of different things that you can use it for. The first is tied to the motion sensor. So let's say, for example, that you are working with someone who has a tendency to turn the stove on and then walk away and forget that the stove is on. The reason the motion detector is so nice is that you can preset it for a certain amount of time. Let's say that's 10 minutes. So as soon as the person turns the stove on, that motion detector or the stove guard starts a countdown of 10 minutes. And what needs to happen in that 10 minutes is the person needs to come back and check on it. And the reason, and the way the stove guard knows if that's, or the iGuard stove knows if that's happening, is because the motion detector is picking up on motion near the stove. So when that happens, this timer recognizes that somebody is still here and checking on it, and it then resets the timer to 10 minutes again, and it starts over and the process continues until the person turns the stove off. So that is a particularly nice feature for people who are having some memory issues and just simply forget when they've turned the stove on or how long it's been. So some other features that are pretty cool with the iGuard is the ability to block out certain times of operation. So let's say, for example, that you want to make a stove inoperable during the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. This device allows you to do that. The other thing that it allows you to do is, let's say that you have a person, a staff member, who wants to receive an alert anytime a stove is turned on. So the person turns the stove on, a staff member gets an alert on their smartphone or tablet, and they can then intervene in any way that's appropriate. So maybe giving the person a call to find out what's going on, or it may be a particularly dangerous situation and the staff member may choose to turn that stove off remotely. Now, before I finish up talking about this, I want to take a little segue. So for those of you who are gasping with the horrors of restrictions of a device like this, yes, we recognize that. So we definitely want to encourage you that if you're going to use a device like this, or today we're talking about a couple of others that could be considered restrictive, that you want to really have a conversation with the team about that and take that through your human rights committees for approval. We want to ensure that due process is obtained before you actually implement these types of technologies. This particular one has been a really great piece of technology to help people be safe. And it's something that we really enjoy using. As a side note, there is a benefit to the gas version of the iGuard. And the iGuard gas version has two different sensors on it. There's one kind of at the base of the stove where the gas comes into the stove, and that's going to be able to sense any gas leaks at that level. The second sensor is actually above the stove, and that actually has the ability to sense then gas leaks that could occur, say from leaving a burner on but unlit. Now, when the gas sensor detects that there is a gas leak, what it does, it shuts the gas off altogether. So that helps provide an extra safety net for people who maybe have a gas stove in their home instead of an electric one. So I do want to forewarn you that those devices do get fairly expensive depending on the model that you do get. The last time I looked at them, I believe they range from $500 to $800. So they are a little on the pricey side. But then again, if you're taking a look at what a fire would cost, or weighing that against a person being able to live independently, it's a fairly inexpensive price tag, actually.
And what I like about the iGuard stove is you can access it from anywhere, from any web browser. So you don't need to have a smartphone. If you have a laptop, you can you can access it and control it that way. If you are interested, there is a website that you can check out. It's called iGuardFire.com, and just kind of see what they've got going on. And yeah, I think it's a really great product.
As a side note, we've had an opportunity to work with that company in relation to customer service. And I've got to say, truly, that company has really been outstanding in their customer service.
Yeah, we're basically on a first need basis with them.
Right. So again, just another perk there in sharing some of our experiences with some products. So the next thing that we wanted to cover was smart cameras. And so we've actually got one here for you to look at.
So I just want to point out that this camera does work. I promise it does. We don't have it plugged in because when we were kind of doing our testing, we were getting a lot of feedback from the multiple microphones that we have going on. So for your sake, more than ours, honestly, for your ears, we wanted to leave this unplugged and just kind of show what it looks like.
Okay. And so I'm going to tell a little story before we dive in too much here. So not too long ago, we were working with a couple of our community members who were aging, and they had a difficult time being able to get to their door quickly enough to answer it when somebody was there. And they also had some concerns about even going to the door and opening the door without knowing who was there. And so we had worked with them to acquire some smart cameras for their home. And what they were actually able to do with it is have a camera that was mounted outside of their doors. And then they could operate that camera in a couple of different ways. So say if they heard a doorbell, they had the ability then to tie it to their smart speaker and say, "Hey, Alexa, pull up front door camera." And that then allows them to be able to see who's at their front door. And then in the case of the particular product that they bought, it also allowed them to communicate with the person that was at the door. So they were able to say, "Hi, Sue, I see you there. I'm on my way." Or
punch this code into the door and come on in.
Yeah. So it allowed them to be able to have some freedom there with being able to allow people in and out of their homes without having to put themselves in a situation where they were trying to rush to the door and injuring themselves in the process. So there are a ton of applications for these smart cameras. Some of them are going to be more obvious as we go on. Now, this one again is the CASA product. So you can tell that we're a really big fan again of these products. And with them, with this particular product, it has the ability to pan and tilt and zoom. And so that's a nice feature to be able to have, maybe for an interior camera. You can pick these up for about $45 again on Amazon or Best Buy. And the way that they work is they have the ability to have zones set. So hopefully this will make sense to you. Let's say that I had a camera like this that was mounted at my front door. And I wanted to be able to monitor when somebody came close to my front door. From the app itself, I have the ability to actually set up zones. So I know that from this point on my side, walk to my front door, if there's any motion that's detected at all, I'm going to receive a notification on my smartphone or my tablet. Now, a couple things to keep in mind there. Because there's this motion detection on these cameras, it's very handy, but there also causes some false notifications. So that can happen sometimes when you have a lot of wind and it picks up the movement of maybe shrubbery around your house. The other thing that can cause a false notification that we've seen has been sudden changes in light. So if you have a cloudy day and then all of a sudden clouds break and you have a bright ray of sunshine come in, sometimes that can trip that motion detector too. So you do sometimes get false notifications.
There is a way to adjust that sensitivity too, just so everybody's aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And by being able to kind of set some parameters of what area you actually want to monitor, that actually limits some of those false notifications as well. Now, some of these products, I can't remember if I said this one. This one runs about $45, and there are a number of other products out on the market. Probably the one we've had the most experience with has been the Blink camera. That one's actually made by Amazon. That one runs about $100, but it is a little bit different in that it has the capacity for two-way audio as well. And so how we've used these in the past has been to mount it outside of, say, a person's front door. And then they have the ability to, when they receive a notification, to pull that feed up on their phone, either review what happened, because there's a record feature on there where you're able to view, who just came to my door and left. Was that an Amazon delivery, or what was that? A cat, maybe?
Or a leaf.
Or a leaf. And then, or if there is a person there, then that two-way audio feature allows you then to communicate with the person that is standing on your porch. So that is another option for a camera that we've had some success with as well.
So going back to the tilt and pan camera, one of my favorite features is when you do set up those zones, it does have what it calls a control mode. So it'll bounce from zone to zone to zone. Bounce is kind of a poor word. I really mean like smoothly transition, but it will control those different zones for you. So if it senses any motion, it will send you a notification.
Yeah, I think that's a good addition too.
So now I kind of want to talk about smart locks. Smart locks, there's really two popular brands. There's the Wyze, again, WYZE, and then the August. And really, they are designed to go over your existing deadbolt and then connect to the internet, and then you can control that or unlock and lock the door remotely. What I like about these is you can also give access to certain people. So let's say you have the dog walker coming by, or you have a friend coming by if you're out of town and you need someone to feed your dog. You can give them access at certain times a day or all the time. And then you'll get a notification every time that door is open. So let's say you come home and find out the dog hasn't been fed, or the dog made a big mess, and then you have proof that the dog walker didn't say what they said they did, or didn't do what they said they did. So that's another nice thing. They also have what they call, some of them are NFC, which is near field communication, software included. Some of it is Bluetooth. But basically what it means is your phone is the key. So when it senses that your phone or someone else's phone is close, it will automatically unlock the door. And then all you have to do is just open it up and go.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool feature for some folks.
So again, cost really does vary based on brand. You can pick them up from $100 to $300, and that does vary based on brand and model.
So I don't know if any of you have had this experience, but I can't count how many times I have. You get to work, you sit down, get your cup of coffee or whatever, and you're like, did I close my garage door? And for the life of you, you can't remember. Or you get 2 blocks away from the house and do the same thing. Did I close the garage door? And then you end up driving around and going back to make sure that you did. So for those of you who find that to be a very real struggle, you might actually like the Chamberlain door opener. And what this garage door opener does is it allows you to connect the opener to your wireless again. And then every time that your garage door opens, you receive a notice on your smartphone. And that's handy for a number of reasons. First of all, it allows you to monitor, who maybe is coming and going, in and out of the garage of your house. But the other thing that's really cool about it is you also then have the ability to check the app and see, okay, is that garage door closed? And if not, the really cool part is you don't have to drive all the way back home to close your garage door. You just use your smartphone or your tablet to close your garage door remotely. Now, I don't know about you, but that's going to save you some trips on gas. I do think that that's a pretty cool feature. It's something that I've really enjoyed. I know it's my home. So now apparently they do also, Chamberlain also makes, it's called the MyQ Hub. And I haven't had a chance to use this particular product, but apparently what it does is it will allow your existing garage door opener to communicate with your wireless network to function in the same way. Now, I can't say I'm an advocate of that particular product because I haven't used it, but I do know that the Chamberlain garage door opener is a really great product.
And cost on the garage door opener varies significantly based on size of your garage door, whether or not it's a belt or chain drive, how many horsepower. So check out the Chamberlain website and find out what that's going to cost. Okay, so now we're going to get into the smart speakers. And the smart speaker is an internet-capable speaker with built-in virtual assistant, and that virtual assistant is operated using one's voice. There's two big players again. There's the Alexa from Amazon, and then there's the Nest, which is actually I like to call it the speaker formerly known as Google Home. And with those, we can go into all the different types, the different models with Alexa. For instance, there's Echo Dot, there's Echo Show 5, Echo Show 8, Echo Show 10, Echo Dot with clock. And then with the Nest, there's the Nest Mini, Nest Audio, Nest Hub, Nest Hub Max, so on and so forth. All of the technology in those devices remain the same. So the biggest differences are going to be speaker size and screen size. That's basically it. So really look at what you think your needs are going to be. And the cost can be anywhere between $50 to $250. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that today we've got an Amazon Echo Show.
And the 10-inch.
Yeah, and we're using that for demonstration today. Now, honestly, all of these products are great products. There's not a right or wrong way to go, as Richard mentioned. It's really about evaluating what your needs are. This is the one that we're using today. I personally find that the Alexa devices are very easy to use. They're very easy to set up and make work with all of these different components. But you may have your own opinion as you venture down your own journey with smart speakers.
Okay, so going back to the Alexa, there is a feature in there that has been around for some time. They just like last month, I think, released a pro version of something called the Alexa Guard. And basically what it does is if you have this enabled, the free version will listen for the sound of breaking glass or smoke or fire alarms. And if it hears any of those things, when it's armed, it's not on all the time. So you would basically just have to say, Alexa, I'm headed out, or I'm going to work, or whatever. And then it will enable that. So once that's enabled, it'll start listening for those things. If it hears any of those, it'll send you a notification on your phone. With the pro version, you get a little bit more. And honestly, I know just enough to be dangerous with it, so I'm not 100% familiar with everything. But I do know that it listens for, it plays the sound of dogs barking if it hears those things. And then it will also allow you to sound a siren if it hears any of those things as an extra deterrent. In case of, let's say it's a glass breaking, it'll sound a pretty realistic siren. I think my favorite feature about the Pro, however, is it allows you to elicit emergency services or call someone using your voice, which I think is pretty great. So that's something that you might want to look into if you're interested, for that extra peace of mind when you're out of the house.
Okay. So earlier we promised that we were going to dive in and talk a little bit more about something called schedules and routines. And so I think Richard's going to demonstrate on the iPad here for just a second. As he pulls up the screen, I want to talk a little bit more about what schedules are. So let's say, for example, this happens fairly frequently. I hate walking into a dark house in the wintertime, especially. And so I maybe want to have some of my smart plugs scattered throughout the house, plugged into lamps that will automatically turn lights on for me before I get home. And so then that way I'm walking into a well-lit house. Now, this can also be used for people who maybe like to, you're headed out on a vacation or something and you want the appearance of, someone being in your home. You can actually set up schedules for your lights to turn on and off at certain times of day in order to help people think that there is somebody still in the home and it's not an unoccupied house. So the way that this actually works is you'll see here again that Connie's lamp is listed here. So if Richard opens that up, you're going to see at the bottom of that box, there's an option for a schedule.
Yep, and it's directly underneath the power button in case you can't see it.
So right now you can see that we have several different schedules in place.
Can I show them
Sure.
how to delete them?
Yeah.
So just open it up, click schedule, open it up. Because these aren't really necessary for right now.
Okay, so now that he's gone through all the work of deleting those schedules, I'm going to show you how easy it is to actually create one. So you'll see on this screen that you have a plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. If we tap on that, that's going to give us a chance to actually add a schedule for Connie's lamp. And so let's use the example that I was mentioning earlier, where maybe I want the lights to be on for me before I get home from work. So we want the lights to turn on, and you'll see there's a turn on or turn off option up there. So we want it to say turn on. And then we're going to go ahead and select the time frame. So let's say that we want it to turn on at 5 p.m. Okay.
And it's just a simple time scroller.
So now that Richard's got the time plugged in, you'll see that there's 7 dots at the bottom of the screen there. The highlighted dots indicate the days that it is active. So you'll see Sunday through Saturday on there. But let's say that I don't really care about Saturdays and Sundays. I really only care about Monday through Friday. So if I tap on Saturday and Sunday there, it's going to remove that from the schedule. So now with the way that I have things set up, that light is going to come on for me at 5 o'clock every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, as soon as I hit the save button. Now, let's say then in turn that I want my lights to maybe go off automatically. So I'm going to tap the plus sign in the upper right-hand corner again. I'm going to have it turn off. And I'm going to pick my time and say, maybe I usually head to bed around 10. So you'll see the same thing with the days at the bottom there again. So I'll want to actually remove Saturday and Sunday again. And then the way that this is set up now is this light is going to turn off at 10 p.m. every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So when I hit save, Setting up a schedule is truly this easy. So now when this lamp is plugged in, ready to go, turn on at 5 o'clock at night, turn off at 10 o'clock at night for me automatically. I don't have to do a thing. Now, let's say, for example, that I get home at 4. I get home early one night and I wanted to turn on earlier. I could use my smart speaker to voice control that lamp, or I could use the app to be able to go in and just manually turn on the lamp, as Richard showed you earlier today. So you can, even though you have a schedule set up, you can still operate the lamp or the plug or whatever you're wanting to operate independently of that schedule that you have set.
So, and what's nice about if you have multiple devices in this app, you don't have to go into each individual device to turn it on, to toggle the switch on and off. There's just a little power button over here on the right. You can just tap that, and you know it's on because there's a green circle around the actual power button. So that makes it really easy. Yeah.
And then I guess one of the other examples we didn't give you is that, Richard talked earlier about this ecobee thermostat that we were showing to you earlier, and the same type of scheduling ability with a device like that too. So you can basically say, at 10 o'clock at night, I want you to turn my heat down to 60 degrees or whatever. And, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I want you to turn it up to 70. So you have the same type of scheduling abilities.
It's quite the difference.
It is. But you have the scheduling abilities here with most of these different types of devices. Now, Richard's going to get a little more complex with you today, and he's going to talk about basically how you set up routines.
All right, so the way routines differ from a schedule is routines are more in the Alexa ecosystem family. It's in the Echo app. So actually what I'm going to do is open the app, and then I'm going to tap more. And then we want to make sure that the microphone is on. So as I was mentioning earlier, the difference between a routine and a schedule is a schedule comes on and off at a certain time, any device. A routine can do that, but you can add a feature, and that can be a lot of different things. So I'm just going to tap routines, and here you see a list of the routines that I have. So I'm just going to say, Alexa, good morning.
I am so happy you are here. Let me get the lights on for you. In Joliet, it's 42 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and sun. Today's forecast calls for more of the same, with a high of 51 degrees and a low of 37 degrees.
Okay, so the reason that the lamp actually didn't turn on is because I don't have that lamp plugged into that routine. So I'm going to fix that. Now, what I'm going to do is I just tapped here. I'll go back. I just tapped where it says good morning here. And then when you say, and you can edit that, when you say good morning, I missed you, for instance, okay? Now we're going to where it says Alexa will, and we're just going to add an action. So we're going to hit that plus side. And then these are all the different things that you can actually incorporate into the routines. And again, we can't get into all of these. That's a whole other presentation. But you can do anything from making a specific call, pulling up your calendar, giving you news briefings, starting an Audible book, sending an email. If you have a Fire Stick, you can actually control, and let's say you want to start watching a specific TV show the minute you walk through the door. So once you say Alexa, I'm home, for instance, it will start whatever app that you actually request on that Fire Stick, and then play that specific TV show. But for this instance, we're actually just going to go down here to Smart Home. I'm going to tap Smart Home, and then I'm going to hit All Devices. And I'm going to do Connie's Lamp, and then we're going to do Power, and we want it to come on because I'm saying good morning. And then let's hit Brightness and bring it all the way up to 100. Set color, select. Let's say yellow like the sun. Okay. And we're just going to hit next, and then hit back. And up here you'll see routine enable updated successfully. So now I'm going to say, Alexa, good morning.
I am so happy you are here. Let me get the lights on for you.
So
Currently, in Joliet, it's 43 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and sun. You can expect more of the same today, with a high of 51 degrees and a low of 37 degrees.
So it's really easy to fix if something's not working. So now let's say, let's say, Alexa, I'm headed to bed.
See, sometimes she doesn't listen to you either.
Yeah, we'll have a chat about that later. Alexa, turn off Connie's lamp.
Okay.
See, now she's listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that you can do is if, let's say you have an alarm set using your smart speaker, you can have it tell you the weather. You can have it
remind you of your schedule for the day.
Tell you what's on the schedule. You can have it tell you good news. So if you really need that the positive vibes in the morning, you can actually ask it to tell you good news or a positive quote or something like that. So I'm actually going to say, Alexa, I have a meeting at Veterans. Alexa, I have a meeting at Veterans.
Sounds good. Though I shall miss you immensely, I will hold down the fort in your absence. At the moment, traffic on your commute looks good. The fastest route takes about 7 minutes via US 30 and Veterans Parkway.
Okay, so again, you can do a lot of different things. One of the things that I really like to do, I like to show people is, let's say we have visitors at the tech lab. I like to say, Alexa, say hi to our visitors. Alexa, say hi to our visitors.
Welcome to Trinity Services Technology Enhancing Capabilities Lab, but we call it the Tech Lab. Why did the supervillain cross the road? To get to the other sidekick.
Good job, Joe.
So, and then with the Alexa devices, there's also what they call skills, which are essentially apps. So if you're interested in doing like different trivia, having her ask you a trivia question once you say a certain command, you can do that as well.
So yeah, we were taking a look at the Alexa device. You kind of have to think of, or Richard called it a personal assistant earlier. And so, I mean, you literally have to think of it that way, is pretend that you have a personal assistant, a real live person that you want to do a specific set of tasks for you each time you walk into the office or you get home. You kind of, those are the same things that you can set up this device to do for you. So it's really, oftentimes just taking the place of either you having to do it yourself or having another person do it for you. Your technology is working for you instead. So those are how routines can work.
So another question that we get a lot is, okay, the smart speakers are really cool, but what if the person doesn't have full use of their voice? Or what if the person uses an AAC device? Can they use these products? And the simple answer is yes. So I'm going to pull up this. There's a communication app that we like to use because it's $5. It's called POSCO, POSCO. I'm just going to open that real quick. And down here at the bottom, you can see that I have something. We have a folder called Alexa. I had to trick it because it wasn't quite grasping the traditional spelling. So I had to spell it Alexa, UH. So I'm gonna hit this microphone. Let's make sure this is turned all the way up. Now I'm going to do
Alexa, tell me a joke. Did you hear about the cat who thought she was a crow? She kept saying, paw, paw.
So I'm going to go back. I'm going to do the same thing.
Alexa, turn on Connie's lamp. Okay.
So if the person doesn't have full use of their voice or even is difficult to understand, using a communication app is 100% possible. You might have to trick it, but it is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see how that would be so beneficial. You know, some of the people that we support, again, are very difficult to understand or have very limited or no verbal capacity to speak. And so we don't want you to think that because of that the options to use some of these mainstream technologies is limited. It absolutely is not. So you just have to get a little more creative about how we apply those technologies in order to work for the person. And so obviously, you know the people that you support the best. So you're going to be able to identify which of these technologies would work for folks and which are ones that maybe you don't want to engage with. So with that, we wanted to give you an opportunity to ask a few questions. I'm hoping that you can all access your chat boxes, and that if you have any questions about the products we've talked about today or the processes we've talked about today, or if you just have any other random questions that you'd like to ask us.
Or if you have some technology that you want to share with us that we're always interested in hearing about new stuff.
Absolutely. So please go ahead and feel free to type that into your chat box, and we will hang out and just wait for any questions that you may have for us.
Connie, that was great. Thank you very much for spending so much time and putting that together for us. Any questions from anyone?
So I did see one come across a little earlier in relation to that iGuard stove product. Somebody was wondering if it can send alerts to staff and caregivers. Yes, it can. So the way that works is when you get the product and you set it up initially, you can have it send a text message or an email to, say, your cell phone or the cell phone of a parent, a caregiver, whoever you designate is being appropriate. And then when that stove, say, gets turned on, you receive a text message saying, hey, the stove, at this particular home is turned on. And then you have options as to how you can manage that, whether or not you want to be able to call the person and find out what's going on, turn it off remotely. You have a number of options at your disposal with the iGuard product.
Good
question. And yeah, Connie, just to piggyback over that, based on that iGuard scenario, with some of the other smart home devices that were displayed in the video, hypothetically, can a caregiver or direct support professional also remotely control some of those devices upon the person being supported's request. So hypothetically, if they requested for a particular DSP, then in turn that remotely located DSP can turn on and off something on their behalf.
Sure. I mean, you can certainly do that. So it just depends on the unique situation that you're looking at, but there are opportunities where you could allow somebody to have control over the same devices that the person would have on their phone in their own home. So an example of what I mean by that is, so let's say that you have a family of 4 and you want wife, husband, and kids to be able to all have access to turn on and off lights, adjust temperature, etc. Use some of the devices we were talking about today. You can set it up so that each person has the ability to access that account on their own device. So yes, you can certainly have multiple people have access to that and be able then to manipulate those devices through the apps on multiple smartphones or tablets. Good question.
I saw a question come through, and maybe have you creatively thought of how you could support a person where they can use some of this tech that has a person with a hearing impairment or that is deaf to take advantage of some of these tech solutions?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we work with people who have hearing impairments currently. Again, it just really depends upon what the person's needs are. So we're currently working with a gentleman who's deaf, and we have put some specialized technology in his home. So some things like strobe lights, doorbells, phone alerts, all tied into like say a bed shaker. So there are some of those specific technologies that you can use for a person who's deaf or has a hearing impairment. But then those folks can also use the same types of technologies we were talking about today. So let's take that voice assistant as an example. One of the things that's kind of nice about it is with the Alexa devices at any rate, you have the ability to utilize a calling feature or a drop-in feature. So the calling feature allows you to basically be able to use your voice to call another person, or you can use your tablet to select calling another person, your tablet or your smartphone. So what that allows you to do then, how we've seen this apply, is then people who are deaf, have the ability to sign, then have the ability to call a person with their device, and then they automatically have the video feed pull up, and then they are able to sign to the person on the other end. And so that's been a nice way to be able to communicate for people with hearing impairments or who are deaf. The drop-in feature is also something that's kind of cool if you guys haven't worked with that at all yet. It's scary and cool, I guess I should say. So the way that works is you can actually enable this feature on your Alexa device so that I can drop in on a location from my smartphone or tablet. So let's say, for example, that a couple of examples of where we've seen this happen is, let's say that I have an Alexa show in my dad's house, and my dad is aging and I like to be able to keep an eye on him, make sure everything's okay. So what I can do is I can use my smartphone to pop in and drop in on him. And what that does is that automatically pulls up the video feed from the Alexa show in his home. And I can say, hey, Dad, what's up? What's going on? Anything you need? Want to chat? Whatever the case might be. And you can do the same thing, say for, maybe you have a nursery and you want to be able to drop in on your kid without opening the door or necessarily creating noise. So you can actually just use your Alexa show in the child's room to be able to drop in, see if everything is going okay, and then you move on from there. So there are some cool ways that you can use some of this technology for people who are deaf and hearing impaired. Hopefully
I
that answers.
also just did a quick Google search, and there's a tap to Alexa feature, which allows people that are deaf or, well, let me just read this. The tap to Alexa feature makes it possible for deaf people to effectively make use of commands, skills, and routines. So I'm assuming, do you know anything about that, Connie? I'm assuming that it's, you're basically putting Alexa into a different mode where she's not listening for voice commands, but you're tapping the screen and then she's
Yeah.
displaying text on the screen.
Yeah, you can
Right.
set it up. You don't have to necessarily use the Alexa for voice commands. You can use the shows at any rate, the ones that have the attached screens with the speaker, also as a traditional touchscreen. So think of it like combining a traditional Alexa speaker with a tablet. That's really what those show devices are. So it has all of the functionality of a traditional like touchscreen.
Cool. And then we
Okay.
do have another question in there. It says, what tech can you recommend for someone who is verbal but finds it difficult to verbalize properly? So non-standard speech patterns.
Yeah. So what you saw is even when we were, Richard and I speak relatively clearly. You saw there was even a couple of times when Alexa wasn't wanting to pick up our voice or listen to what we were asking. So that does certainly happen. And that becomes more difficult than when people have difficult speech patterns. So one of the things that we have used is that POSCO app that Richard talked about at the very end of the video, where you're able to utilize essentially an augmentative communication device to give Alexa commands. And so, especially if you're looking for someone who has some difficult speech like that, that can be a nice way to be able to incorporate or allow them to use some of the features on those devices.
Yeah, I just dropped in the chat as well that Voice It, the emerging tech solution that I think we're all anxious to see officially launched, is actually going through beta. But that is another app that plays nice for layman terms with your personal assistants for people with speech impairment. So they're able to, the app learns how the person says certain commands and then says it out clearly to the personal assistants. So that is one to keep an eye on as well, that I think will be very helpful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point, Donald. I mean, like I said, like you said, it's in beta testing right now. I'm really excited to see what that actually looks like as it comes forward and is released to the general public to use. So it's very exciting, and I'm hoping to see some tremendous leaps and bounds in that arena for people who have difficult speech in particular.
Absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to ask, as far as because I wear routines out on my Alexa all day, every day. So I just thought about, have you ever gotten creative with creating a routine where there's a scheduled drop-in video chat? So, Alexa knows every time at a certain day that that person is going to have a drop-in with mom or a direct support professional, just to check in on them, check in to see how they're doing.
So I haven't used it as a drop-in, but I've used calls into routines. So I can't say whether or not the drop-in would work, but phone calls do, or audio, or I guess video calls, I guess I should say, work that way. Yeah, you can incorporate that into the routines as well.
See any other questions here? I just wanted to notify everyone again that I did all the pieces of tech that was showcased today during the video. I dropped in a link to a list of those tech solutions Connie put together for us. So the links are there if you want to do a little homework or use it as a reference. Moving forward, if you come across someone who you think, you know what, I remember seeing that tech at this webinar, you can refer to that to get the link to that piece of tech. I also wanted to just really quickly drop in as well. I know there's been some issues with registration. There is a two-step registration process for any of these webinars for DDS staff or providers. Number one, you must register through TIS. And then number two, you should get a link to be directed to Zoom's registration. So you have to register in 2 places. After you do your Zoom registration, you should receive the correct link to join at the time of the meeting. Just one of the places. I'm sorry. Go back to see if there's any other questions. I don't see any.
I've been scrolling through the chat and I think we've picked up the ones that people have put out there so far. I haven't seen any new ones.
Give it one more minute, see if there's one that drops in, and maybe we'll give some time back, a whole 3 minutes or so back to people's lives.
I was going to mention, I know when we were talking about the Ecobee thermostat in the presentation that, we talked about being able to monitor your temp or adjust your temp using a smart device. One of the other ways that you can use that device, especially if you're having a caregiver monitor someone else's environment, is rather than not thinking about arguing about whether the temp is too high or too low, but monitoring that for safety reasons. So if you're not going to be in the home for extended periods of time, that gives you an avenue by which to say, like, okay, is the temperature getting too high? Meaning maybe the air conditioning is not working. Is the temperature getting too low? Is there a problem with the furnace? So it's just another safeguard that you can put in place, especially if you don't have a support person that's in the home for maybe extended periods of time.
Good tip.
And by the way, just thinking of a less intrusive way to monitor or see activity through personal assistants. I haven't had a chance of seeing videos floating around of Amazon Care Hub. I think that is a new skill that can be enabled. So for example, if you have a loved one and you just want to make sure everything's okay without bugging them or calling them all the time, through when they do commands through the Echo shows, for example, the person gets an alert just to see that there is some activity in the house without being too intrusive. So that's another one I did drop into the chat to do a little research on together, see what comes of Amazon Care Hub. And
Any other questions that we missed in the chat, or get them in quickly?
And I don't know if we actually provided that information, but I am happy to have you reach out via email to me if you do have any questions that pop up. I'm just putting that actually into the chat box right now. So feel free to send me an email if you do have any questions that you think of after the fact. Happy to help out in that way too.
Thank you, Connie. And please thank Richard for us as well, who was in the video with you. So thank you very much for doing this. And what is our next one, our next scheduled one, Donald?
Next one is April the 29th, 12 to 1 p.m., where we will be focusing on healthy living tech solutions.
Great.
All right. So thank you, Connie, again for joining us. This has been a wealth of information, and definitely we'll ask any questions, follow-up questions. I know how to get in contact with you, but this has been great, and we hope we can share this with stakeholders in the future as well.
You bet. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.